Breaking: Ibrahim Traoré's army destroys 900 terrorists in surprise assault. 900 terrorists wiped out in one surprise assault. No one saw it coming, and what President Traoré just did has left the entire region stunned. Right now, Ibrahim Traoré's army just launched one of the most successful counter-terror strikes in African history, and the world is watching. With limited resources and overwhelming odds, Traoré's forces have just delivered a massive blow to terror. This might be the turning point in West Africa's war for peace. Breaking news. In a bold and unexpected military operation, Burkina Faso's armed forces, under President Ibrahim Traoré, have successfully eliminated 900 terrorists in a surprise assault that has sent shockwaves across Africa and the international community. This marks one of the largest anti-terror victories in the Sahel region and showcases Traoré's unshakable commitment to restoring peace, security, and sovereignty in Burkina Faso. What this video covers: full breakdown of the military assault that took down 900 terrorists. President Ibrahim Traoré's leadership in counter-terrorism. Operations. Reactions from the African Union, ECOWAS, and global media. Strategic importance of this victory for the Sahel and West Africa. What this means for terrorist networks operating in the region. Why this matters. Burkina Faso, under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has become a frontline warrior in Africa's war against terrorism. With limited resources but unshakable determination, the Burkinabe military has once again proven its resilience and strength. This assault is a warning to all terrorist factions operating in Africa. Africa is no longer backing down. Join the movement. What are your thoughts on this victory? Should the African Union support Burkina Faso more openly? Drop your opinion in the comments, like, share, and subscribe for real-time African updates. 1. Breakdown of the military assault. Without confirmed details of an assault eliminating 900 terrorists, I'll outline the general nature of Burkina Faso's counter-terrorism operations under President Ibrahim Traoré, which could contextualize such a claim. Since taking power in a September 2022 coup, Traoré has prioritized a total war against terrorist groups like Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wa al-Muslimin, JNIM, an al-Qaeda affiliate, and Islamic State Sahel, IS Sahel. His strategy emphasizes aggressive military operations, community mobilization, and reduced reliance on Western support. Operational context. Burkina Faso faces severe terrorist threats, particularly in the Sahel region, which accounted for over half of global terrorism deaths in 2024. Attacks by JNIM and IS Sahel often target civilians, security forces, and infrastructure, using improvised explosive devices, IEDs, ambushes, and complex assaults. A significant example is the June 11, 2024, attack in Barcelona, where JNIM killed between 110 and 600 soldiers and civilians, highlighting the intensity of the conflict. Hypothetical assault details. If an operation eliminated 900 terrorists, it would likely involve coordinated efforts by Burkina Faso's armed forces and the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDPs, a militia force exceeding 50,000 members. Such an operation might target a major JNIM or IS Sahel stronghold in northern or eastern Burkina Faso, areas heavily affected by terrorism. It could involve intelligence-driven raids, air support, and ground assaults, possibly supported by regional allies like Mali and Niger through the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. The scale suggests a multi-day campaign, potentially in response to a large-scale terrorist gathering or a planned attack, such as the April 2025 coup plot Traoré's government claimed to have thwarted. Tactical approach. Traoré's strategy relies on rapid response units like the Rapid Intervention Battalions, BIR, and VDPs, who are deployed in contested areas. Operations often focus on disrupting terrorist supply lines, seizing weapons, and targeting leadership. The use of Russian military support, including Africa Corps, formerly Wagner, troops since January 2023, may enhance intelligence and logistics, though it's controversial due to human rights concerns. Without specific data, this assault remains unverified, but it aligns with Traoré's aggressive counter-terrorism push, which has seen increased operations against JNIM and IS Sahel. 2. President Ibrahim Traoré's leadership in counter-terrorism operations. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a 36-year-old army officer, seized power in Burkina Faso in September 2022, citing the failure of his predecessor, Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, to curb terrorism. His leadership has reshaped Burkina Faso's counter-terrorism approach, emphasizing sovereignty, anti-imperialism, and grassroots mobilization. Strategic shifts, rejection of Western support. Traoré expelled French troops and ambassadors in 2023, ending a decade-long French military presence, Operation Barkhane. He criticized Western interventions for failing to stem terrorism, aligning instead with Russia and forming the AES with Mali and Niger. Expansion of VDPs. Traoré revived and expanded the VDPs, arming over 50,000 civilians to bolster security in rural areas. While this increased local presence, it has led to human rights abuses, with VDPs implicated in civilian massacres. Total war policy. Traoré discontinued de-radicalization programs, opting for a no-negotiation stance with terrorists. He has called for groups to lay down arms, focusing on military elimination over dialogue. Alliance of Sahel States, AES, in September 2023, Traoré, alongside Mali and Niger, formed the AES, a military and economic pact to counter terrorism and external threats. In January 2025, the AES announced a 5,000-strong joint force for cross-border operations. Achievements and challenges. Successes. Traoré's operations have disrupted terrorist activities in some regions, with reported GDP growth and infrastructure projects, e.g., a national gold refinery, signaling economic stabilization. His anti-imperialist stance resonates with young Africans, boosting his popularity. Challenges. Despite efforts, terrorism deaths in Burkina Faso rose by 24% from 2022 to 2023, with over 7,600 fatalities in 2023. NIM's attacks have expanded to new regions, and VDP's abuses risk alienating communities, potentially fueling radicalization. Allegations of coup plots and authoritarian measures, like arresting dissenters, raise concerns about governance. Personal leadership style. Traoré's youth, outspokenness, and emulation of revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara have made him a symbol of African sovereignty. His rejection of Western aid, nationalization of resources, and populist acts, e.g., forgoing a presidential salary, resonate with youth but spark tensions with regional and Western partners. Traoré's leadership is bold but polarizing, balancing aggressive counterterrorism with risks of overreach and regional isolation. 3. Reactions from the African Union, ECOWAS, and global media. The AU, ECOWAS, and global media have varied responses to Traoré's counterterrorism efforts, reflecting geopolitical tensions and the Sahel's complex security landscape. African Union, AU. The AU has consistently called for African-led solutions to terrorism, commending member states' sacrifices but urging respect for human rights. In January 2025, the AU's Counter-Terrorism Center reported over 3,400 attacks across Africa in 2024, with 13,900 fatalities, emphasizing the Sahel's crisis. The AU supports initiatives like the AES's joint force but stresses coordination with regional bodies like ECOWAS. Regarding Traoré, the AU has not explicitly endorsed his leadership due to his junta status and Burkina Faso's withdrawal from ECOWAS. However, it supports Burkina Faso's transition plan, extended to 2029, and encourages international support for counterterrorism without foreign interference. The AU suspended Burkina Faso after the 2022 coup, reflecting its stance against unconstitutional changes. Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS has a strained relationship with Traoré's regime. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger withdrew from ECOWAS in January 2024, citing its inhumane sanctions after their coups. ECOWAS has warned that this withdrawal risks further terrorist expansion in the Sahel, as it weakens regional security cooperation. ECOWAS's 2020 to 2024 action plan to combat terrorism, costing $2.3 billion, includes a standby force, but Traoré's rejection of ECOWAS frameworks limits collaboration. ECOWAS has called for dialogue with the AES to restore integration, but tensions persist, especially after Traoré accused neighboring Côte d'Ivoire of harboring coup plotters. Hypothetical victory killing 900 terrorists would likely prompt ECOWAS to cautiously welcome the outcome while urging Burkina Faso to rejoin regional efforts and respect democratic norms. Global media, Western media. Outlets like Semaphore and AP News have highlighted Traoré's authoritarian measures and reliance on Russian support, framing his regime as vulnerable to jihadist attacks and coup attempts. They note the worsening security situation, with 1,800 attacks and 4,600 deaths in West Africa in early 2023, and criticize human rights abuses by VDPs. African and pro-Traoré media. Sources like BBC Pidgin and Mr. Online portray Traoré as a charismatic, anti-imperialist leader resonating with young Africans. Social media platforms like X show strong support from African activists, who view his actions as a stand against Western dominance, though some posts exaggerate his successes. Global South media. Outlets like Brazil de Fato report on Traoré's claims of thwarting foreign-backed plots, framing them as resistance to Western interference, but they lack details on specific operations. A claimed assault killing 900 terrorists would likely be celebrated in these outlets as a victory for African sovereignty, though Western media might question its veracity or highlight civilian casualties. The lack of specific reporting on the alleged assault suggests it may be an unverified claim amplified by pro-Traoré narratives, with global media reflecting ideological divides. 4. Strategic importance of this victory for the Sahel and West Africa. A successful operation eliminating 900 terrorists would have significant implications for the Sahel and West Africa, a region described as the epicenter of global terrorism. Security stabilization, immediate impact. Neutralizing 900 fighters would disrupt JNIM or IS Sahel's operational capacity, potentially weakening their ability to launch large-scale attacks. It could secure key areas in northern or eastern Burkina Faso, allowing humanitarian access and civilian returns. Regional spillover. The Sahel's porous borders mean a Burkina Faso victory could reduce cross-border attacks in Mali, Niger, and coastal states like Benin and Togo, where terrorism has spread, e.g., a 250% increase in coastal attacks from 2020 to 2022. The AES's joint force could amplify this effect through coordinated operations. Boost to morale. A high-profile victory would bolster Traoré's legitimacy and public support, countering perceptions of military weakness after attacks like Tawari in August 2024, where elite BIR units suffered heavy losses. Geopolitical implications. Shift in foreign influence. A major victory without Western support would strengthen Traoré's narrative of self-reliance and validate Russian assistance, further reducing French and U.S. influence in the Sahel. It could encourage Mali and Niger to deepen AES cooperation, reshaping regional security dynamics. Pressure on ECOWAS. A unilateral success might embolden Burkina Faso to remain outside ECOWAS, challenging the bloc's relevance and pushing coastal states to engage with the AES. Economic stabilization. Securing terrorist-controlled areas could protect Burkina Faso's mineral resources, e.g., gold mines, critical for GDP growth and funding counter-terrorism. Traoré's nationalization efforts rely on such stability. Humanitarian benefits. Reducing terrorist control could alleviate the Sahel's humanitarian crisis, with 6.3 million displaced and 30 million needing food aid in 2023. However, VDP's abuses risk undermining these gains by alienating communities. This victory would signal Burkina Faso's capacity to lead counter-terrorism independently, but its sustainability depends on addressing governance and human rights issues. 5. Implications for terrorist networks operating in the region. A large-scale operation killing 900 terrorists would significantly impact JNIM, IS Sahel, and other networks in the Sahel, though the long-term effects depend on follow-up actions. Weakening operational capacity. JNIM, as the dominant group, responsible for nearly half of Burkina Faso's attacks in 2024, losing 900 fighters would disrupt NIM's command structure, logistics, and recruitment. However, NIM's resilience, shown in attacks like Barcelogo, suggests it could recover by exploiting governance gaps or foreign backing, e.g., from Al-Qaeda networks. As Sahel. With only one attack in 2024 compared to 8 in 2023, IS Sahel is already weakened in Burkina Faso. A major loss could further marginalize it, shifting the balance toward JNIM. Recruitment challenges. High casualties could deter recruits, especially if Traoré's operations target training camps or financial networks. However, heavy-handed tactics risk radicalizing communities, as seen with VDP abuses. Adaptation and evolution. Tactical shifts. Terrorist groups are evolving, using drones and pooling resources across borders. A major setback might push them to adopt more asymmetric tactics, like IEDs or urban attacks, as seen in Bamako, Mali, in 2015. Cross-border retreat. Fighters may flee to Mali, Niger, or coastal states, increasing pressure on neighbors. The AES's joint force aims to counter this, but limited coordination with ECOWAS could hinder effectiveness. Financial disruption. Seizing weapons or gold mines, a key revenue source, could starve terrorist financing, though their adaptability, e.g., via illicit trade, remains a challenge. Long-term outlook. While a single operation could weaken groups temporarily, terrorism's root causes, poverty, corruption, and weak governance, persist. The AU and UN emphasize addressing these through development and human rights, warning that force alone is insufficient. Traoré's rejection of de-radicalization programs may limit long-term success. This operation would deal a blow to terrorist networks but risks being a Pyrrhic victory without holistic strategies to prevent resurgence. Conclusion. While the specific claim of an assault killing 900 terrorists lacks corroboration, Traoré's counter-terrorism efforts have reshaped Burkina Faso's approach, with notable successes and challenges. The AU and ECOWAS stress regional cooperation, while global media reflect ideological divides. A victory of this scale would bolster security and Traoré's legitimacy, but risks being undermined by governance issues and regional fragmentation. The Sahel's terrorism crisis requires both military and socio-economic solutions to achieve lasting stability.